Okay, I've quickly assembled my supplies so that I can show you how quick and easy it is to utilize our Rambling Rose cut file. When you get the file, you will receive 6 petal layers. I've already taken 4 of those layers and used the technique I'm about to show you to start our rose. This piece is our base of the rose, and then this is the beginning of all of our layers to come. Now what you're going to want to do is choose a color palette and pick 3 shades in that palette to utilize for your rose. I like to go with a light, medium, then darker color. I'm using a pink color. And the other thing you're going to want is a mouse pad or an embossing pad. You're going to want some straight tweezers, an embossing stylus or bone folder, or if you have one of these from like a flower making kit, that'll work. A paper crimper, and you're going to want some dimensionals. Now I like to cut my flowers using a textured ivory or white cardstock because most flower petals are lightest in the center. And I'm going to start with the largest one and just take my ink and go directly along the edges of my flower. Now it doesn't have to be perfect because no color is perfect in a flower. You just want to make sure that you leave the center pretty light. So I start with the lightest color and I go pretty far into the center. Then I'm going to take my medium color and go a little bit further in. Again, not being perfect, but still having some of that pink. Then I take the darkest color, and you can either just kind of scrape the edges or just rub that way. I like to kind of scrape a little bit and go in just a little bit because again, nothing is perfect. And then once I'm done, I usually take my lightest color and I kind of like to drag it along. And if you're using a pigment ink, it does help to blend it just a little bit better because it's still a bit wet. And then you repeat for all of your petals. Now, when you're doing this type of petal, you really want to hold on to the ends so that you don't rip them off if you're too rough. And again, you're not being too careful. Just make sure you leave some of those centers white or ivory. And you would repeat this for all 6 of the petals that come in the Rambling Rose cut file. This is just one of the easiest ways I've ever found to make a realistic looking rose come together in just a few minutes. They look just like the cut files. The cut files look just like the roses that you would actually buy in the store. And again, so easy. I think when people find out you made it yourself, they would definitely be impressed and surprised. Okay, so once you're done that, you want to take your paper crimper and you're going to insert your flower into the crimper, and you want to drag it back and forth a few times. You want to also turn it and repeat that process. Now what this is doing is breaking up the fibers in the paper so that it becomes softer and more easy to manipulate, and it just gives it a much better texture because it is softening the paper. It's not so stiff. Okay, once you've done that a few times, run your next one. Now when you get to these petals, again, you want to be a little bit more careful because you don't want to rip them off and be too aggressive. When you get to the smaller ones, you don't need to run it through as many times. I just like to rely more on the embossing stylus to round out the petals at that point, which I'll show you how to do in just a minute. Okay, so after going through a few times, we've now broken down some of the fibers in our paper. We're going to put aside our crimper. And this is where, this tool, a bigger nose embossing stylus, or even your bone folder comes in. You can take your bone folder, and this is also where the mouse pad comes in, and just rub out the lines, as you can see. Or, what I like to use is the end of this, and I rub out the lines that way. It also helps my petals curl Now you don't need to worry too much about the center because that is going to get covered. So just proceed by rubbing them out. You then are going to take your tweezers and right where you have that indentation, pinch and fold back. Pinch and fold back. And you're going to do that around all of it. And again, this is just loosening up the fibers and getting it ready to curl like the petals of a rose. Once you've gone all the way around, for the bottom piece, you pinch the part of the petal and you just curl it. And this is the base, so you don't have to be too finicky with that. But if you see, I'm pinching, curling back, pinching and curling back, all the way around. Now, as you can see, that gives me my bottom for my rose. I'm then going to take 2 dimensionals and just stick them on because in a minute I will be sticking my flower to it. And you just want to kind of mess with it, curl it up a little bit. Now we come to our actual rose petals. You're going to do the same thing, only this time when you're pinching and folding, you're going to take your finger and kind of curl this back. So it makes almost like a V shape. This is what gives you the real authentic rose look, by taking the tops of those petals and pinching in the center and then just curling back with your finger. Pinching and curling, that's all you're doing all the way around. And you can leave some of the crimp in because that'll also give you a really nice texture. Now as you can see, by pinching and curling and then pulling forward, I have a pretty close to realistic looking rose petal. And if you're not happy, you can, curl some more. Just keep it going. But it goes together relatively quick. So I take this and I put it in the center. I like to make sure that as I go through each layering process, that I not only pull this forward, but that I stagger my petals. So for this next one, I've already had my other layers already all set. There's another dimensional. I'm going to use 2 dimensionals on this one, and then from there it goes to be 1 dimensional because I want a little bit more height. So as you can see, I already have that piece done. I'm going to make sure that my petals end up layering in between those 2 petals, just like so. And then I either take my pliers or the embossing folder and I push it all down really tight, fluff it forward, and there I have a wild rose. And all I did was take that step and repeat all the way through. Now for the leaves, I have this 4-petal flower from Fanciful Flourishes, and what I did was I had a scrap piece, so I just cut it out. I used my crimper, same type of technique, back and forth a few times. Oops. Just like so. And I don't really rub out the lines too much. I do that, and then across, and that makes it look similar to an actual leaf. And then I'm going to lay it down here. I sponge all my stuff. Just make sure I fold it. Add a dimensional. And then I stick it right there. And I'm done. Now I have a gorgeous rambling rose. Thanks for watching.